All right, thanks. Just starting out with our game with Boston College. I was proud of the team and the staff, for the ability to perform the way we did on the road. It was a good BC team, very physical team that doesn't beat itself. They're well coached. It was a loud, passionate, definitely raucous crowd, and learned a few new cuss words. So appreciate that. That was nice. But it was windy, it was rainy, and none of that stuff mattered. The guys just stayed locked in. They were focused, and they stuck together. It was a tough first half, and we hung in there and got a chance to get into the locker room and make some really good adjustments defensively that helped. And I thought we really played good complementary football, and that's something I'm been preaching with these guys, and they've bought into it for 2 years now. Different sides of the ball, offense, defense, kicking game, our sideline energy. It's just all clicking and helping each other. And different parts of the team sparked us at different times of the game. And, really the second half, the third quarter, we had an explosion there in a positive way that started with, a 3-and-out on defense. And then Devin Boykin, picking up the dropped punt for a touchdown. And just throughout the game, Trent Gill helping us in field position, flipping the field with punts, downing them inside the 5-yard line, kickoffs all in the end zone. I thought he was really, really good in a windy stadium. And that led to a lot of things for us, offense and defensively, being able to play in the type of field position you want to play in. But with the halftime adjustments, I was really impressed. Every game we make adjustments, and every game you try to get your players to completely grasp what you're talking about. And a lot of times that happens, and sometimes it doesn't. And, for those of you that don't understand halftime, it's fast. And guys come in there and, they're trying to get something to drink. They're using the bathroom. They may be getting an IV, or they're in the training room, and coaches, you're running from the press box down to the locker room, and what happened, going through everything. And then you got 2 or 3 minutes sometimes to correct and adjust. And then you stretch them and you're back in the game. And so we did some things at the half in 3 or 4 minutes time that I thought really was impressed. I told the team this, not that we made good adjustments. We try to do that every week, but detail for detail, they took them out on the field and did it. And I was really impressed with that. Mature group. Positives on offense. We really emphasized being able to make contact catches in this game because of the tight man-to-man coverage BC had shown. And it started right away with Devin Carter's catch. He sparked us. It was awesome to see him make that play, and he'd made it in practice. I thought Dylan Parham's catch in the end zone, put him in an awkward position, and he's okay. We're glad he's fine. But scored a touchdown there, and then obviously Thayer Thomas's catch in traffic. All 3 of those contact catches were touchdowns for us. They were a good physical defensive front. I thought their linebackers were really physical blitzers, and to limit them to only 3 plays in our backfield the whole day, 1 sack, 2 TFLs was good execution and good strain in our protection plan. Did not turn the ball over in a wet stadium with wind. And that drive we had before the half, 6 minutes on the clock, eating all that clock up, and then finishing it with a Mayday field goal as time expired. And then obviously for Emeka to break a record like he did was a special moment for the team. The negatives, we dropped 3 balls that could have made things easier. Had 5 penalties that we need to get off of tape. And, Devin tried to make a play there at the end of the half, and we wanted him to throw a completion or throw it out of bounds. So he had a teachable moment there. I was thankful that we were able to still get points out of that because we had no more timeouts. On defense, first half, we didn't play as well as we wanted to, but we stopped them enough to keep the points off the board. But we're spectacular in the second half. We had an interception, had a safety to finish the game, had 2 4th-down stops. The second half gave up no points and negative yards rushing, which is hard to do against anybody, particularly Boston College. I just thought we played really hard. Played physical, tackled much better in the second half than the first, had some big hits. Isaiah Moore was all over the place. I thought Devin Boykin really played well, played strong safety and free safety, trying to get a little bit more of a rotation in there to spell our guys. And he really did a good job. Negatives, we had penalties that extended third down drives 3 times, or drives on third down 3 times. And obviously the first half run game we spoke about. In special teams area, I'm really impressed with Keon Lassane as a guy covering punts right now. I think he's helped our team a lot in an unselfish way. And Trent Gill is just really playing at a high level right now. And now on to, Miami. Been studying them since, we got back, and obviously their record at 2-4 is not impressive, but they're playing a lot better than I expected to see them on tape. And they've played some great teams, Alabama, Michigan State are 2 of the top teams in the country. App State's always a very good football team. And then Virginia and UNC are teams with explosive offenses. So they're scoring a lot of points. They're very fast on the perimeter. On offense, they're still scoring 30 points a game without King. And they've got a bunch of receivers a lot of people would love to have. They do a good job with their tempo. And, obviously we played them last year and played about as bad as we could play on defense. So, I know that side of the ball remembers that game and has a bad taste in their mouth. Their defense, with Manny calling it, they're very aggressive. They have good-looking body types. They're long. Their safeties are gigantic. 6'5" safety, number 0, and 6'2" in Bolden. Corners are long and active, and linebackers run well to the football, and there's a rotation up front. So, we know it's going to be a tough game. Another road game, excited about playing in an NFL stadium. I know our guys are excited about that, and we have a handful of guys from the state of Florida. So, for them, it's nice to be able to go play a game in their state where they grew up. But just another opportunity to get better for our football team and try to build on what we've done in the last 4 weeks. Questions?
David Thompson.
Hey, Coach. We didn't see Chandler Zavala on Saturday. Can you give us kind of an update on how he's doing, if he's coming back?
Yeah, I don't know if he's out long-term or not yet. It's just day to day. He wasn't ready to play this past week. And so we're hopeful, but I can't give you a deal on him yet.
Alec.
Yeah, Dave, you've mentioned this before, but I think you guys have gotten points in all but one of your wins on that last drive of the first half. Just how important can that be to kind of maybe shift some momentum heading into halftime to score there?
Yeah, that's big. You go into the locker room with momentum from the score. Sometimes you're getting the ball back to start the third quarter, and you got a chance to, we call it twofer, get two scores in a row before they touch the football. So for all those reasons, it's big. And I think it goes back to Devin Leary. He's a very clutch player, and he's very calm in those scenarios and understands where to put the football.
James.
Yeah, Dave, in previous years, it seems like in the red zone, you guys maybe leaned on the run game a little more. I think right now you're 9th in the country in red zone touchdown passes. Was that something that you guys noticed maybe to tweak, work on, or is that just maybe a byproduct of what you're saying with Devin?
I'd have to really study that to give you an educated answer. I think offensively, we have had more explosive plays, which is some of that is coming from the pass game, which you saw with Thayer and Devin on some of these long extended touchdown catches. But, when you get into the tight red zone, it's hard to throw a football when you get really tight. There's just not a lot of space, and that's where the run game has to help you. But yeah, I think if without studying it, I would tell you there's probably more explosive plays in there on the pass game, which helped us.
Luke.
Dave, your players talked after the BC game about taking motivation from being overlooked, and obviously that's always something that a narrative that pops up. But you guys are going to be favored in either all or all but one of your remaining games. And is there something that you have to do to kind of, I don't know if it's flip the mentality or adjust the mentality to go from sort of saying, hey, nobody's taking us seriously, to say, hey, people are taking us seriously, and we now are we're the favorite. We're the team to beat.
Well, if we end up in that scenario, then yes. Right now we're not favored, so I don't have to go there yet. But if we do, then yeah, and the message will be pretty clear. It's what got us here is doing things this way, and it doesn't matter where they put us, underdog or not. We got to keep playing the same way. I mean, we understand from the past year that if you do have a game where you don't win, you're pretty quickly thrown out. So we just got to take it 1 week at a time and know that at the end of the year, our body of work will have the respect that it deserves. And hopefully we can keep doing what we've been doing, just playing 1 week at a time.
Andrea,
Dave, kind of as a follow-up to that, after the tough road loss early in the season, I don't know if that was like a wake-up call for some of the guys, but what were some of the takeaways from that you guys were able to apply against BC and be so dominant last week? And then how does that carry forward now with another big road game?
Well, I think when you lose a game, obviously it's always going to count as a loss in the record books, but if you can use it and really learn from it, it's not a loss for the season, and we did that. I mean, we were, in my opinion, we were a bunch of guys that played really good in the opener. We had a bunch of players on preseason lists, a bunch of guys that had a lot of hype, and they played great in the first game, and they thought it was going to be, here we go again, and we didn't, they returned opening kickoff for a touchdown. We didn't respond well. And I think offensively in particular, it showed its head in a negative way. Instead of sticking together, the guys, hey, throw me the ball, or hey, hand me the ball, instead of just, coach, what's the call? Let's go do it as good as we can. And we learned a tough lesson that day. It was a good lesson to learn. I think we needed that lesson. It's something we had talked a lot about. Sometimes you can't teach them something without adversity. And, this is what I was saying, not that I want to be an I told you so guy, I don't. But these were the conversations we had in training camp. Like, how can we screw this up, that we control? Obviously we don't control injuries that happen, but, when things get selfish or things get fragmented because guys are in an emotional state instead of a focused state, you can have bad things as a football team, and that was a day where we were not, in the right frame of mind after adversity hit us on offense. I thought we did enough on defense to stay in the game. But it was a great teachable moment. I thought our guys took it to heart. They owned it. As coaches, we learned a lot, with our guys in that, and we got better from it. So not that I ever want to lose a game, but I'm thankful we lost that game the way we did that early in the season, because it has helped us.
Todd Gibson.
Yeah, Dave, do the guys take a little bit of pride in seeing that their school's in the top 25? And how important is it to have your school in the top 25, I guess, for exposure and that sort of thing?
Well, it's nice for them to get credit. I don't sit around and ask them about that. I don't. So I think my focus is just trying to keep them in the place that we've been, and that's, hungry. We're climbing a mountain. We haven't gotten to the top of it. And what I don't want to do is take our eyes off the path. I want to stay right where we've been on the process of winning. We need to have a great Tuesday practice. And that's all we're talking about, is how can we get better? I'm asking every player, same thing I did in the bye week. What didn't you do well against Boston College? All right, well then let's get a plan. Write it down on paper. What are the drills? What are the things mentally? What's the film study? What do we have to do? You only get 3 days of practice. How are you going to get better at that? And that's where we are right now as a program. We're not into all that. Do we take pride in trying to prove people wrong? Yeah, we do. But, we're not going to talk about accolades and things like that.
Rob.
Hey, Dave, how happy are you with the depth you've seen from your team this season, particularly as it pertains to the defense, which is all starters?
Yeah, I mean, it's helped. We're in a place where the next man up on the roster has performed well, and I continued with Derek Eason stepping in for Chandler Zavala on the O-line. I thought Derek played really well against a good Boston College front. You've seen it with Jalen Scott stepping in for Peyton. You're seeing it with Devin Boykin. playing now more at safety with Cyrus out and Jaqueen. Those guys playing a lot of football. You know, Corey Durden becoming a nose tackle as opposed to a guy that played nose and end for us. He's playing all nose now with CJ Clark out. So the depth has helped us. Now, we'll tell you, we don't have a lot behind that. You know, we can't sustain a lot more in those position groups. You know, when you get into your third and fourth, that's where it gets really hard. And so we need to do a good job with our roster of, you know, staying healthy. We need some luck, obviously, and we have to practice really smart. You have to go hard, but you can't go so hard that you put them at risk, you know. But the depth has helped, and I think, you know, at some positions it's better than others.
Kobe.
Hey, Dave, you mentioned Miami's defense earlier in your opening comments. Just wondering, what are you seeing Miami's defense doing differently compared to last year with many calling plays again on that end?
You know, it's very aggressive. There's a lot of blitzes. There's a lot of coverages. There's a lot of substitution packages. And I don't know if that's because they have more personnel. With COVID, you were limited more, you know, with how many guys you had week to week. So maybe we're seeing more because of that as well. But they've been aggressive since he's been there. I mean, look, I know he didn't call the defense last year, but I have a hard time believing that he just turned his back on it too. I mean, he is a defensive guy. So, you know, I think his thumbprint was probably still on it, but he wasn't making the game day calls as he is now, you know. So that's the biggest thing. And, you know, they've got good personnel. And really, like I said, they're big, man. They got a lot of really good looking kids.
Jonas.
Coach, you mentioned depth a few minutes ago. You guys haven't had to rely on a lot of true freshmen this year. I mean, if any, I'm not sure how many have actually played snaps as opposed to like special teams. In your time as a coach, have you learned that this is better for their development, you know, working out, being in the weight room and watching and studying film as opposed to throwing them in the fire? 2 years from now, will you see the benefit of them watching, learn as opposed to them having to play right away?
Yeah, I would say 95% of college athletes are going to be better at 21 years old than they are at 18. You know, I just think that's how you are. I mean, even if you're really, really gifted physically, you're not going to have the same mental, you don't have the experience. You just can't draw on game day experiences like everyone else can. Are there guys that can do it and be special as freshmen? Yeah, and we've had them here. And we have some good freshmen now. We just have the luxury of having some older players in front of them. But I think it's for their growth. It's way better. I do love the red shirt rule that we have now, where you can play them in 4 games and get them some game day experience. I think that helps them a lot too. So they're not so nervous, you know, when they become a starter.
Are there some guys who, if they weren't super seniors or third or 4 year guys in front of them, they probably would be contributing or helping the team this year?
Yeah, you know, Demi Sumo, he's playing in his, you know, 3rd game now on special teams, would be a guy running back. I think Sean Brown on defense is a guy that's really impressed us and as a safety. Those 2 guys jump out. Julian Gray's actually playing right now. I mean, those are the 3 freshmen that you probably see out there the most. You know, had Jordan Poole not had a hamstring injury and missed basically all of training camp, he probably could have helped us a little bit more. But I think it's a great year for these guys to, you know, not just football wise, but to get used to college. You know, I mean, we didn't have regular college last year, as you know, it was all online. So even our 2nd year players are learning what it's like to be an in-person college student again. There's a lot of things that go with that, the time management and everything else. So I think that, you know, the first year not putting them in 12 games, unless they're just definitely ready or better than what you have, is beneficial to them.
James.
Yeah, Dave, you stressed last week the importance of defending Zay Flowers. Just to evaluate your performance on him and you know, the job your corners did.
Well, when you play Boston College, you know, at the end of the game, if you can say that they didn't have 100 yards rushing and their top receiver had 8 yards, you're going to feel pretty good. And that's what happened, you know. So, you know, can we repeat that performance? I don't know. You know, obviously it's a different challenge every week in this conference. Everyone's offenses are different. Miami has different challenges. You know, you got Rambo out there, you got Harley out there. You know, there's some good wide receivers running around on that field for them. And last year they scorched us. So different challenges this week. But I thought we did what the recipe was, you know, is try to stop the run and don't let Flowers beat you. And we were able to do that a week ago.
And just to follow up, I know I don't want this to be a stupid question, but some penalties, right? Like if a corner's in man coverage one-on-one in college where it's not a spot foul, you guys have had some of those 15-yarders where you didn't give up the explosive play. I mean, is that something you discuss with those guys?
Well, you don't want to give up a touchdown, you know, but you don't want to coach them to PI people all the time either. You know,
Right.
I think there's a difference between, you know, you're beat, this guy's going to score on me if I don't grab him. Okay, that's a different conversation than you're one step behind him and here comes the ball and you got a chance to play his eyes and hands and go up with technique and not get a penalty. Or you're covering him really well and you just grab him because you're not playing with good technique. Like we're on third down right now, you know, we're hurting ourselves more than anything because, as you know, we lead the nation in third down defense. Like if you went back and looked at the first downs against us, a lot of them are penalties. You know, they're not people catching the football. So we just got to clean that up, you know, and we'll be better.
Thanks.
David,
You know, there's an obvious closeness between, you know, with this team. You can see that, you know, after the Boston College game, you can hear it in the locker room. How much does that help to just have that, you know, when you have these back-to-back road trips, when it's just, you know, the craziness of this kind of schedule?
Yeah. Well, it helps no matter where you're playing to have that chemistry on your roster and on your coaching staff. And it's real. You know, I think a lot of teams talk about it. It's very genuine. It crosses the offense, defense, special teams. They genuinely cheer for each other. They do it in practice. They do it all the time. So it's fun to work on a team like this with a staff like this, where you have that kind of genuine care about each other. And it does help on the road. I'm not trying to diminish that. And you're right. You know, there's only 80 of us against their however many they have on their roster, plus their fans. And Miami fans are always rowdy fans as well. So, you know, it helps when you guys are, you know, your sidelines pulling really hard for each other.
Jonas,
Coach, it seems like Daniel Joseph has been very, very disruptive this year. Even though he's not like getting a bunch of sacks, it feels like every pass play he's in the quarterback's face or being held or being double teamed. What's working well for him this season?
Yeah, Daniel strains really hard. You know, he is when you put the tape on him, he plays as hard as he can physically play. He has mastered that, and that is a huge skill set. When you get a guy that just plays with maximum effort, Daniel does that. And you know, he led our team in sacks a year ago. You know, I do feel like with a three-man rush at times, he will face more double teams probably. He's got to take advantage of his one-on-ones, and when he gets there, you know, get people on the ground for us. And, you know, I like the way that the rotation's working with Coach Wiles on the D-line, keeping those guys fresh. I thought him and Savion, you know, Davin Van and Terrell Dawkins, you know, rotating in and out. And then, you know, Conti came in the game and gave us a great pass rush and sack at the end of that game as well.
Rob,
Dave, have you mentioned that a win this week would get you guys to bowl eligibility? Is that something y'all talked about, or you're just sort of focusing on Miami?
No, we haven't talked about that. I think our guys know that, you know, really just trying to win this game. That's it. And once we win this game, if that's where we end up, then we'll talk about where we're at next and then the next week and the next week. But this was one of our season goals, was to stay 1-0 as a team. That's it. And so that's what we're doing.
Andrea.
I'll sneak one last one in here. Dave, you mentioned earlier, you know, sometimes when you have a loss early, that affects the way people view the team for the rest of the season. Do you feel like that's the case, at least from a national perspective right now, that there might be some voters or folks who are looking at you and continue to hold what happened against Mississippi State against you guys?
I wish I could answer that. I really don't understand all of it. I know 2 years ago we were not a good football team and I didn't do a good job. We were 4-8. Last year with COVID, maybe people didn't get to watch what we did. I don't know. We had a heck of a year last year and won school record conference games and, had a really good season. And so I thought with that people would think that we have a chance to be a pretty good ball club this year. It doesn't seem like people respect us for whatever reason. And I don't know. I would think losing to Mississippi State on the road, everyone knows how hard it is to play there. I know it's not a loss we wanted to have, but is it a loss that kicks you out of the top 25 forever? I don't think it should be. That's a pretty good team that also beat Texas A&M, So yeah, would we have liked to have won that game? Absolutely. But we got a lot of games left, Andrea. We got 6 more games. We just got to play as good as we can play in all those games. And it's been a crazy year in college football, so let's see where we end up, and really not worried about where we're at right now. I think it'll all take care of itself.
All right, looks like that's it for today. Thank you, Coach. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thank you.